The clock starts on a third vaccine approval. Johnson & Johnson now filing for emergency use authorization. Previewing Super Bowl Sunday and Love Hate 8 to end the week. Here's what you need to know. Good morning, this is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Friday, February 5th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Good morning, Carlo.
Good morning, my friend. How are we on this Friday?
We are A-okay. Happy it's Friday. Not that the weekends prove to be any more exciting than the week these days, but still nice.
At least you can sleep in, right? Sleeping in alone makes it worth it.
All right, let's get to some news. We have a bunch of positive developments to report on the pandemic on this Friday. Johnson & Johnson has now submitted its vaccine for emergency approval to the FDA as expected. If and when that shot gets the green light, doses could start shipping by early March. And this would add a third highly effective vaccine to the country's arsenal. In New York City, Yankee Stadium opens today as a mass vaccination site for eligible Bronx residents. This is not one of the big federal sites, which will soon start to open in California. COVID hospitalizations nationwide finally back down to their pre-Thanksgiving levels, down more than 40,000 from their early January peak. Again, that's hospitalizations, not cases. So that's very important.
Yeah, there's also this for the first time in I think at least a month, the 7-day average of cases has not exceeded 20,000 in any state. So again, headed in the right direction. We've got this really high baseline, which sort of makes it less apparent. But of course we have this huge, this huge unknowable situation with the variants. But, we'll save that for another day because right now the news is good. The U.S. did 1.7 million vaccinations yesterday. That's according to the Bloomberg tracker. That's a new daily record. We're starting to gain some momentum. It's slow, but it's happening. At that rate, at the current rate, it would take 7 years for the United States to reach herd immunity. But that is, I say that. I know. I say that, but I'm saying that to make a point because it's an incredibly stupid metric. Because today's rate is not tomorrow's rate, right? And tomorrow's rate's not going to be next month's rate. And the J&J shot is going to help tremendously in, assuming we don't mess it up, in making that rate even higher.
Novavax, by the way, it's another kind of new. It's actually a newish biotech company or smaller biotech company that made its name during this crisis. They also started a rolling submission as it's still in the process of conducting late-stage trials for their vaccine, but just a way to speed up the approval process for that shot, which would probably come closer to late spring or summer. They gave a little info a bit earlier this week about just in terms of efficacy, that it's really effective against current strains, but the South African variant is making that a bit less effective. But again, it's just another tool in the arsenal here. Let's talk about schools for a little bit. Chicago and San Francisco in a battle with their school districts over when and how to reopen schools for in-person learning. Chicago public school students were supposed to go back to a hybrid model this week, but the city and the teachers union have still not reached a deal, leading to a frustrated Mayor Lori Lightfoot blaming the union for dragging its feet. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, the situation even more contentious. The city is suing its own school district in an attempt to reopen classrooms. I think this is a preview, Carlo, on just more fights to come. And it really has so much to do with vaccinations.
Yeah, the thing that teachers unions, and especially in a lot of these large districts, are saying is at this point is, we're almost there. We just don't want to go back until everybody is vaccinated. So, I'm gonna get flamed for this, but that's all right. I appreciate the position that teachers are in, right? I really do. I feel for them. I know teachers. I know how hard this year has been for you guys, but at the same time, like something's got to give here, right? It seems pretty clear at this point that remote learning is a disaster. Right. I don't have a child, so it's hard for me to say this, and it sort of sounds like it's almost like you shouldn't listen to me because I don't have a kid, so I don't really know what it's like. But I've heard things. I've heard from my peers. It's a disaster. Kids aren't learning anything, and that's the best case scenario. A lot of kids are in serious trouble. just being outside the classroom for this long. Kids have to get back into school. And I know this isn't going to make some people happy, but my opinion on this is sort of like, if we expect transit workers and grocery store clerks and nurses to be going into work every day at this point, why should teachers be different? I mean, are they not essential workers? I would argue teachers are the definition of essential workers, and they should obviously be protected to the greatest extent that is possible. They should be given hazard pay. They should be given pay raises. They should be given accommodations if they're, if they have comorbidities that make them particularly at risk. But this whole, like, we're not going to go back until everybody is vaccinated, point of contention here, just given what we know about how little transmission appears to be actually occurring in schools, it just seems unrealistic and unfair to me.
I would agree, Carlo, and I think you're right. If you're a teacher and you're of a certain age and you have underlying conditions, that I think is a different story. Look, in New York, every state is different, right? In New York, teachers are at the top of that priority list. So most teachers, I know, the teachers in my daughter's school have at least gotten one shot, most of them, of the vaccine.
Great, really?
Yeah, I mean, so in New York, most teachers are getting vaccinated at this point. So, I guess that they have a valid point, right? Like, why shouldn't they be at the top of that vaccination list? However,
sure, yeah.
I would agree. I think, like, New York, my niece has been in school all year. And they sit 6 feet apart. Everyone wears masks. I understood in the beginning saying, don't send them, we need to see how this thing is spreading. But now we have the data which shows that schools are not really that cause of spread, right? It's like, okay, so you could either go to school or you could go grocery shopping. Your risk is probably the same. Anyway.
Yeah, this is tough. It's
hard.
Tough.
It's hard.
I don't want to make it sound like, again, teachers have been like true heroes this last year. But, the long-term effects of kids being out of school this long, or especially when they have peers in private school who are just sort of like trucking along as normal almost, that's a real problem.
And I mean, I know in the beginning, and this is just from my mom, who was retired this year, but she was a teacher. And at the end of last year, when they went remote, she said, it was terrible. It was terrible for everybody. She said it was the hardest she's ever worked in her entire life, was trying to teach art to elementary school kids remotely.
Oh my God.
So it's just, there's no great answer, but anything and everything that could be done to get kids into a classroom, because we're now a year into this thing. And if you wait for everyone to get vaccinated, you're talking, 2 years of kids not being in the classroom? That shouldn't be on the table as an option, I don't think. To Washington we go. The House has stripped Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of both her committee assignments as punishment for spreading conspiracy theories and hate speech. The vote was nearly down the party lines, although 11 Republicans broke ranks to vote with Democrats. That is one more than the number of GOP representatives who voted to impeach Trump. So that second impeachment trial, by the way, is scheduled to kick off Tuesday.
Oh, next week is going to be something, huh? So back to MTG, as she is known. She gave some version of an apology.
Don't even call her that, Carlo, because that kind of is almost endearing. Right. And she's really. Let's just not give her even that credit, okay?
No, you're right. I just did it because it's easier than saying her full name, but you're right. But so anyway, so Greene gave some version of I don't even want to say it's an apology. She sort of showed some kind of contrition.
I thought it was zero apology. I thought it was like I thought that there was no remorse, and I found it to be
It wasn't, harmful, you're right, it wasn't.
More than anything, but.
I guess what she did was, she said that she in fact does believe that 9/11 happened. So I'm glad that we have that cleared up. I had a lot of questions, but now that Ms. Greene, oh God, never mind. This woman, I swear. But I'm actually surprised 11 Republicans broke ranks. That counts as bipartisanship in this day and age, right? I mean,
so just to let you know, a lot of those Republicans, or at least a couple of them, from that Florida district or Florida, where Parkland is. I mean, imagine being a congressperson. Think about what she did politically, even for those people who represent Parkland or Sandy Hook, that's area. Like, she's basically said that those shootings were staged as a way to tighten gun law. I mean, to fight. Right. It is so beyond the pale. I mean, if you are a parent who lost a child in that shooting and you have a elected member of Congress saying that it was all staged and fake, and then hounding and harassing other victims who survived on the street, David Hogg, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where is the line? If that's not the line, where is it?
I know. I'm with you, Jill. And I mean, so of the 199 House Republicans who voted against removing her from these committee assignments, remember, this isn't removing her from office, right? She's still going to be a elected member of Congress. It's just about removing her committee assignments. Lord knows how she got those in the first place. The Education Committee? Are you kidding me? But anyway, of the 199 who voted against removing her, not a single one defended her. So I think a lot that shows you that, you know, this party is deeply conflicted about where it's going. And the problem with Green is that, in my opinion, she's not going to be a one-off, right? Her views, I hate to say this, but some of her views are really insane. But a lot of them are not outside the mainstream of a lot of deep red primary voters in deep red districts. Remember, right, politicians, especially members of Congress, especially members of the House, they reflect their constituents. And because of, you know, how gerrymandered everything is now, a lot of them can and do take on a lot of the most extreme views of those constituents, because those are the people who vote in primaries. And there's very little risk these days of getting voted out of office just because of how gerrymandered these districts are.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem. I mean, Liz Cheney notably did not vote to remove her from her
what was that all about?
And I mean, look, the argument is that she's saying is like there shouldn't be sort of this kind of litmus test, and is this something that Democrats even want to do? You can imagine a situation where Republicans control the House and then something comes up about a Democrat in their past that is negative, and they could say that this person shouldn't be on this committee. I think, can't we just all agree that there are certain things that just aren't okay? I mean, I guess that's the problem. Like, we've lost our ability to be shocked. Is that what it is? There's just nothing.
Yeah, that's part of it.
There's just nothing that somebody could do that you could say, okay, you've gone too far.
Well, especially in Washington in particular, because again, any of us who have regular jobs who aren't, you know, creatures of politics, if you said any of this stuff, not even if you just said it, but if it was discovered that you had said it in your past, you would be fired and you would not work again.
President Biden ending U.S. support for Saudi Arabia and its long-running offensive in Yemen. That war between the Houthi rebels and the Saudis is in one of the poorest countries in the world, has led to a humanitarian and strategic catastrophe, according to President Biden. Saudi warplanes armed with American bombs have been relentlessly bombing targets in Yemen for 5 years.
Yeah, this is something that we haven't talked a lot about, but it's
it gets very little play, but it's actually a huge story.
And this is a huge deal that he's hopefully, if he actually does what he says he's going to do, if he gets us out of this. I mean, God knows how many civilian Yemenis have been killed in the last 5 years, 6 years, I think it actually is. I've been actually a little pleasantly surprised by some of Biden's early foreign policy decisions, especially this. You know, getting involved in this absolutely horrific conflict, probably one of the biggest stains on the Obama years, in my opinion. Remember, it was Obama that sort of blessed this. It was not Trump. So it's nice to see us cut bait on the Saudis for once. You know, now that we don't need their oil, I think it's been made a little bit easier. Also, by the way, the White House says that Biden's going to freeze President Trump's plan to withdraw U.S. troops from Germany while they undergo a review. So that's something to watch. He also said yesterday that he's going to take a more aggressive line on Russia, basically saying we're no longer going to roll over in the face of Russia's aggressive actions. So he's clearly trying to draw a line in the foreign policy stand, right?
Let's on to some business news. Peloton's been among the biggest winners of the pandemic, so much so that it cannot keep up with the demand for its fitness bikes and treadmills. The company admitted as much in its earnings report, saying it had $1 billion in sales last quarter, but that future profits are going to be squeezed because the company is going to be investing really heavily in fixing its supply chain problem. As a new Peloton owner, I got an email from the CEO of Peloton explaining exactly what they're doing. I read it, and they basically said that I guess there's been these huge shipping issues at the ports, particularly in California. So one of the things they're doing is they're going to try to fly the planes instead of just relying on shipping. And they're investing a ton of money.
Fly the bikes?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, fly the bikes instead of just ride shipping, and they're going to invest a ton of money to try and just ramp up manufacturing.
They bought that what was that company called? Precor, I think, which is sort of like a fitness equipment manufacturer for that reason. One of our colleagues, Lauren, we were talking about this on our call yesterday, and she said she has been waiting on her Peloton since September.
Oh my gosh.
So how did you get yours so fast? Do you have like a hookup?
I do actually.
Oh, you do? I do it.
Well, so we got a like a friends and family one, and it's actually not used, but used, where maybe they sent it to somebody. Yeah, it's refurbished. Yeah. So that's smart. Sort of how we got around it. I can't believe I'm even admitting this, but yes, and I have to say, and we got it, and I'm a convert. I get it. Like there was so much hype around a Peloton, but it has changed my quarantine at the very least. I work out now 3 to 4 days a week. It's like my me time. I love it, and I don't know. I mean,
People swear by this thing.
Yeah, and I get there's so many classes. I could go, shut the door, take 30 to 45 minutes for myself. So I understand that. I understand.
If you're waiting on your Peloton, email Jill, and she's going to talk to her. She's going to talk to her people, and she'll make sure they get it shipped out to you right away.
I had nothing to do with it, actually, because I didn't even want one because I hate biking. And my husband was like, let's just get it. And I probably shouldn't have even told that story on this podcast. But anyway, let's talk a little entertainment. Hot on the heels of the Golden Globes, the Screen Actors Guild Awards announced this year's nominations, giving the late Chadwick Boseman a historic 4 nods combined for his 2 roles in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Da 5 Bloods. Schitt's Creek, The Crown, Ozark also made out well. The SAGs are considered among the most prestigious awards for actors because they are given out by their peers.
The Oscar race is still wide open. The SAGs didn't really seem to point us in any direction there. On the same day, though, just by coincidence, I guess, former President Trump resigned from SAG-AFTRA, which is the union behind the SAG Awards. He was facing some sort of like disciplinary hearing for his involvement in the Capitol riot. So this is one of those you can't fire me, I quit situations, right? And this letter that he wrote, I'm sorry, it is so funny. Trump said that he was proud of his work in Home Alone 2 and Zoolander and on The Apprentice, but concluded that his SAG membership has, quote, done nothing for me. Who cares? I can't do it justice. I just highly recommend you read this resignation letter because I was like literally in stitches reading it last night. The guy is funny, man. He may not have been a good president, but he was definitely our funniest president. He also uses this like ersatz version of the presidential seal on his stationery, and he still signs his name on these like missives that he puts out. President Donald J. Trump. It's very strange. It's like literally having like a president for life letterhead or something.
So you posted this letter on Twitter, and I read it because you posted it sort of saying, like, I hope one day in my life I can write a letter like this. But it's so weird. It's also very clear that he wrote it, which is what's funny about it. It's like, this is what you're doing. Anyway, it is Super Bowl weekend. Super Bowl 55 is Sunday in Tampa Bay. Patrick Mahomes looking to defend the Chiefs title, while Tom Brady looking to win his 7th ring at the age of 43. Like everything else, the big game will look different from years past, with a fraction of the normal crowd on hand and a more somber tone expected, at least off the field in the pregame shows. The Chiefs are heavy favorites, but as many have learned over the last 2 decades, if you bet against Brady, it's at your own risk. Kickoffs at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS. President Biden bringing back that tradition of the president doing a pregame interview with the network that's hosting the game. So he is sitting down with Norah O'Donnell of CBS at 4 p.m.
If you just want to watch The Weeknd, who is doing the halftime show, I think you can probably assume the halftime show is going to start sometime in the 8 p.m. Eastern hour. Should we do some prop bets? I mean, what do we think the color of the Gatorade that they pour on the coach is going to be? That's always my favorite.
Oh, I'm gonna go okay, I like that. Orange?
I'm going orange.
I would say yellow.
Yellow Gatorade? Okay, I'm making a note of that, and we'll check on Monday. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. Like I've said, I'm going with the Chiefs to cover the spread, which I believe the last time I checked is 3.5 points. But like you said, Jill, I mean, Tom Brady is Tom Brady, man. And if anyone can pull off an underdog win, it's him.
I'm going to just be such a Debbie Downer. Just people don't go to Super Bowl parties.
Yeah, watch it from home.
We have all this great news about vaccines and about the rates coming down. Just stay home, watch the game, eat some nachos by yourself.
Oh, I meant to tell you this. I meant to say this because I thought of you because Fauci was on the Today Show yesterday and he said he was doing that, and I was like, we live in this situation now that's so weird and we don't even remember it. It's like anytime there's now any sort of holiday, like Super Bowl Sunday is basically a holiday in this country, right? There's now this tradition of Dr. Fauci having to come out and tell everyone, like, please just act like an adult. For the love of God, just don't be an idiot. Let's just get through this without it becoming a super spreader event.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, the numbers will show, right? I mean, the numbers, it's like the proof is in the pudding. We'll see in a week.
Right.
Unfortunately, if these numbers go up, it's just, I don't know. For the Super Bowl, I think it's more fun to be home anyway and being able to watch.
I agree.
Okay, anyway, let's do a little Love Hate 8 to end this week. Okay, I'm going to kick it off with one thing that we love, a snow day, or at least the first few minutes of a snow day, before you realize that chores, errands, life does not stop just because of a blizzard. I think in all of our minds, a snow day is like a cup of hot cocoa by the fire. Yeah. That doesn't happen. That is not life.
No. It's the same, especially when in a work from home era, when you're literally just doing the same thing, only there's snowflakes going on outside. I went outside yesterday for the first time since that big storm. It's a mess out here, man. My car is buried. It's going to turn into a giant ice cube this weekend when it gets super cold. Tough life over here in Brooklyn.
One thing that we hate, when people post their friends' happy birthday wishes on their own social feeds. We get it. It's your birthday. Congratulations on this annual achievement. But we don't need to see all of your pals who posted a flattering photo of themselves with you to celebrate.
Is this a thing that happens?
Yes. Okay, so this was mine.
This is like a Facebook. This is a Facebook thing.
No. It's become an Instagram thing where people, so just say it's your birthday and everybody that you know posts a picture. Like if I posted a picture of us doing the podcast, a very flattering picture, right? And said, to my podcast buddy, Carlo, happy birthday, which is super nice and great. And then you reposted that on your birthday along with 50 other messages that people wrote. And I guess that we should be cutting everyone a little slack in the pandemic, but I don't know. I just I cringe because I'm like, I'm friends with this person. I didn't post a picture of myself with them, wishing them a happy birthday. So.
Well, this entire country is basically one narcissistic personality disorder.
I was going to say it's one big humble brag, but it's not even a humble brag. It's just a brag.
I mean, there's an easy fix to this problem, which is to stop using Instagram and Facebook as I have, and your life will be better in myriad ways, this including one of them. One thing that we ate, in this case, drank this week, a Shirley Temple. Jill, I've been drinking Shirley Temples every night. Like, I don't know why, but I bought grenadine at the supermarket a couple weekends ago, and I've just been like going crazy with it. So yeah, ginger ale on the rocks, splash of grenadine, squeeze of lime. It reminds me of, I don't know if this other people had this situation, but when we used to go out to dinner in the city as a kid for like a big occasion, all the adults would be drinking booze or like cocktails or wine, and they would say to the kids like, you can order a Shirley Temple, and they'd sort of like pretend like it was a grown-up drink. So then I would like order them as a teenager, or like, and people would be like, what you're a teenage boy, like, why are you drinking Shirley Temple? But anyway, it's delicious, so highly recommend. And you can throw a little vodka in there and make it a dirty Shirley if you so choose.
Look at you living on the edge over there. Why don't you treat yourself for Friday night, Carlo? Okay.
It's all around.
All right. Cheers to that, and that is what you need to know for Friday, February 5th.
Have a great weekend, guys.